Oh, Joseph.
All right, all right. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight to join our meetup. This is the official Multifamily Investors Network presented by Nico and Yosef. How are you, everyone?
Good.
All right, all right. Well, usually I have my Nico and we do like virtual high fives and all that. But today, Nico is. I thought Nico will be still in class, the CPR class, but I think he's driving now, so he might not be able to kind of join, but he's listening. Um, Usually we start with ice breaking kind of network session, but our special guest Justin is today his schedule is not accommodating that. So what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna start with Justin's presentation first, and then we'll follow with Q and A's and maybe a little networking session. All right.
I
So before we
appreciate
dive
it, guys.
into, oh no worries, Justin. We appreciate you, man. Before we dive into our meeting, Justin, I'm gonna read his bio. So Justin is he once was a highly recruited engineer turned full-time multifamily investor at only 25 years old, with over $1 million in equity created and $130,000 in wholesale profits in the last 2 years. Justin is an expert at finding off-market and direct-to-seller deals. With his proven no-stress DTS process, DTS is direct-to-seller process, he is helping other investors launch their very own direct-to-seller businesses. Check him out as the Cashflow Cowboy. I love that Cashflow Cowboy on social media as he logs his journey to 300 units by 30 years old. Welcome, Justin, and without further ado, take it up,
You
man.
asked for this, Joseph. The
Oh,
cowboy
love that.
hat is
Look at that.
on.
Look at that
We're ready to rock and
hat.
roll now. It's
All
so
right,
funny
great.
because it gets a lot of responses, but then I realized it's not the most comfortable thing to wear around all the time, a cowboy hat, especially if you're not a real cowboy like me. I just got the hat for show, right?
But it's a great way to market yourself and self-branding. You stick to one thing over and over, and people started noticing that, and whenever they see that, and they remind of you, right? So it's a great thing.
I agree. One of the big reasons why I did it in the first place is, I'll talk about it a little bit when I go through my story. Is like I used to be an engineer, right? And a lot of my engineering friends and colleagues didn't know anything about real estate. And when I tried to talk to them about real estate, they, eyes glossed over. But when I put on a cowboy hat and started talking about real estate, all of a sudden it was entertaining enough for them to listen a little bit more. So it stuck. That's why I'm doing. I'm trying to get them into the real estate game, at least as a side hustle, right? We all need to be doing something in real estate.
Great, man, great. Love. I can't wait to listen to your full story throughout the presentation. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Let's rip it. Yeah, let's do this. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share for you guys. For those of you that got to listen to me speak this past weekend in Ponte Vedra, you guys get to hear a little bit of the same old, but that's okay because
Oh, by the way, this was exclusive material for MIH members only. That was presented last during the last weekend MIH Summit, the Real Estate Summit. So I really appreciate Justin for
yeah,
sharing this because this is not probably not the material that you could just easily find outside because it's exclusive
no,
material. So I
definitely
really
not.
appreciate Justin.
Yeah, and if obviously a few of you were there at that, but you heard what I said in the beginning is that this is legitimately, if you guys go ahead and implement or at least take a fraction of this information, it is hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of information, right? But at the end of the day, it's similar to getting a six pack, right? We can be taught as much, we can be told to work out as much as possible. We still have to actually implement it and do it, guys. So, right, I'll give you everything you need for success, whether or not you take action. Sorry, that's on you guys. You're gonna have to, step through. On your end, but we are. I do have a 8 o'clock, so I need to with our actual direct to seller clients. So I have to run. So I want to just go ahead and rip through this, and then if we have some time at the end, guys, we can go over, questions, specific deals, right? We can talk about that. So direct to seller, DTS, secrets here for consistent off market deal flow, right? The consistence probably should be bolded there because that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to just do one and dones. That's not a legitimate business. So direct to seller, right? So the goal is going from just your light marketing to actually building a direct to seller business, guys. If you're not running it like a business and a process, then it's not going to work out. You're gonna get tired. You're not gonna have success in the beginning, and you're just gonna give up. And then people like myself or Yosef, who are committed to executing on this business and this process, will do better. And then lastly, I'll touch on my system at the end, kind of the no stress aspect, right? If it is a business, you don't want to be working too much in that. You want to be working on it, right? I think that's the goal. So I'll show you guys exactly how I operate, like the inner workings of how I've set up my direct to seller and team members and stuff like that, and then how you guys could potentially do it as well. So what I want to start with is, before I go into just diving and giving you guys everything about direct to seller, I think a lot of people some people might not know who I am, right? And this picture explains kind of my background. So my great-great-grandfather migrated to the US. He was a Polish soldier who got in a scuffle with his German commanding officer. And how the story goes is the German commanding officer ended up being killed. So then he had to, in a hurry, get to the US, right? I don't condone these actions. This is just what happened, right? So the reason I say that is he arrived and his family arrived in the US with nothing. And I think a lot of families got to the US this way, right? Nothing. And so as a result, you build a scarcity mindset that's necessary for survival. Now, a lot of times this mindset is passed down generation to generation. It's almost like you don't even realize that it's happening, right? And so this was their home. You can tell, dirt roads, no running water. They raised 6 kids in this house, and actually they only have half the house. The front half you can see is the Feldman meat market in town. So they raised 6 kids in the back half of this tiny home. They all went to church or they all went to school at the church in the background, stuff like that. But the reason I say this is because what you guys need to understand is that let's take it for like you're building a championship basketball team, right? The mindset necessary to survive that rebuild, right? Those rebuilding years of your family or your basketball team, whatever you want to say, it's not the same mindset needed to win the championships. There does need to be a switch, right? The example I gave over the weekend was the Philadelphia 76ers, right? They're the trust the process team. And they've gone from a bad team to a top contender. Now they still need another evolution of their process to go on and then become champions, right? So that's the next step. And in my family, the scarcity mindset started getting passed down generation to generation. And for us, it was, how it manifested for me was, go get a safe, secure job, right? This is like your parents' proven recipe for a comfortable life, right? Go get a safe job. Go get a good major in college, then go get your safe, secure job. Then work really hard at that job. The more time in, the better, right? The harder you work, the more input. Then eventually, right before you essentially die, you get to retire and, maybe enjoy a little bit of life. And that's just that was, if you look at my generation, is exactly what we did. But that's not the mindset that's going to be necessary for us to go out and achieve financial independence, right? Financial freedom. I think it's kind of, if everybody looks at the W-2 world and the 401k program, even the pension program, it's not really possible to, get to that financial freedom probably as fast as you want, right? And that's why I did real estate investing. That's why I utilized real estate investing as that vehicle. So I did do what my parents told me to do, right? I went and I got a strong engineering degree. I did really well, guys, and I only highlight that I did well, not to like pump myself up too much. It's just to say that like I'm not just in real estate because nothing else was working, right? I wasn't just like, okay, well, let's try this real estate thing because I can't get a job in engineering. No, I was doing very well, but I wanted to expedite that process to financial independence. So I'll breeze through this just because we don't have a ton of time, but you can see this is I was an engineer. We were working on machines. I was in the pharmaceutical world. So you can see I had a bunch of PPE on, making sure the pills were coming out safely. And the funny thing about this, guys, that I didn't mention last weekend is I thought I was going in to make a massive difference in the world, right? And pharmaceuticals I was going to be producing a bunch of life-changing medicines. But then the pandemic hit, and the medicine that ended up skyrocketing in sales was Cialis. So the equivalent of Viagra, right? Skyrockets in sales. So then instead of making like life-changing medicines, I'm changing lives in a different way, quote unquote, just mass producing these pills for others to use, right? So I quickly realized maybe this wasn't my avenue for making a big impact on the world. So I left and I started real estate investing, right? At the age of 25, like Joseph mentioned in my bio. And the first year I brokered some deals, right, as a realtor, just to kind of learn the ropes of how does a transaction work, what is multifamily and stuff like that. And then I started buying them myself, right? So this is what we've done just in the last 2 years, just over 2 years. So we've done a bunch of purchases. We have one under contract right now, and then we've wholesaled some as well. And the beauty of all this is these all been off-market deals. And the reason I almost have to do off-market, and I think a lot of us are now having to do it as well, is one, as a 20-something-year-old, brokers weren't taking me serious, right? And I agree, like they have no business taking me serious at first, right? But it's very similar where, the chicken or the egg. It's like, well, you need the experience to be credible with the broker, but you need that broker to send you deals so that you can get the experience, right? You guys have probably all been in that situation. So I decided, instead of sitting around waiting for somebody else to send me a deal, I was going to go find them myself. And that's what I did. So we started finding off-market deals. We started building our direct-to-seller business, right? And, we can go into some of these at the end if you guys have questions on specifics. This one in the bottom left here, I think it'd be bottom left for you guys, the purchase 10 unit. That one, $35,000 a unit, 1995 build, guys. And we bought it. We did some light renovations, like nothing crazy. Rents have gone from $465, and I just looked at our last month's metrics, and they're actually at $850 now average rent. So we pretty much 400 rent bumps, bought it at a 35 a door acquisition cost, and then now we're just sitting here just waiting to time the refinance for how much money can we actually take out of it. Like we can 100% and more, right? And we're just kind of waiting on rates. I'm sure a lot of us are waiting on rates right now. But that's the other thing, is that in the current marketplace, waiting on rates and whatnot, there's not a ton of deals out there, guys, right? I'm sure you guys have all seen that. And that's why I'm really excited that we have been building this business. And now that we're now able to build it for other people, is because now is almost the time you have to be going off market to find anything. So what we did, I'll just breeze through this. Joseph mentioned it. Over 8 transactions the last 2.5 years. We are not a wholesaling company. Those wholesales were just simply because we were going to buy them, and we decided let's make money instead. And so we've made massive profits on those. The last one we did earlier this year was a $60,000 profit as a wholesale fee, right? So those are math. This isn't your, 5,000, 5,000, 2,000 type stuff. No, we're planning on buying them, and then we decide, hey, let's for some reason find an end buyer and execute out. And then the 1 million equity, hey, we got lucky, right? We've got these at massive discounts. So we've been able to double the value of most all of our properties so far. So we're sitting on a ton of equity, just ready to capitalize once rates come down. So let's go over the direct to seller. That's why we're all here. That's me, guys. Who cares about me, right? Let's talk about you guys and how you can start building your systems, your businesses, right? This is the $100,000 worth of value right here. So this was my car. I used to live in Michigan, and I had the Cashflow license plate. You can see it. It's on the wall now. I have since moved to Orlando, Florida. My fiance is a resident now, orthopedic resident here. So that prompted the move, and I had to get rid of my license plate. I also sold the car because I didn't want to drive it down either. got myself a different one. But this Cashflow Cruiser is my old Cashflow Cruiser. The reason I highlight this is because DTS has 3 components, and it's like driving a car, okay? The first one is the car itself, which is like systems, resources to track those leads, and then more importantly, follow up with those leads, because the money's in the follow-up. And then the car takes gas, obviously. So your system, your business is taking a list of properties that you were targeting to buy, right? This is direct to seller, right? Those are the properties. And then lastly, you need to drive your vehicle. And this is specifically your relationships skills at first, but then as you expand and scale, this is your team's relationship skills to negotiate and close the deals, right? Doesn't matter if you find a bunch of interested sellers, if you can't build a relationship with them, get offers in front of them, negotiate those offers, and then actually buy deals, doesn't really matter, right? So I will not talk about the lists, because doing this for over 2 years and having a ton of success, the system and the relationship building are the most important parts, right? So don't focus too much on the list. If you guys are interested, I did a full deep dive into where to source lists from, right? We hopped on a call. The call that I'm doing later is with our direct to seller clients. We did a full strategy call on just list sourcing, right? So if you guys want that, reach out to me after this. I'll put my stuff in the chat at some point, maybe right before I hop off, and shoot me a DM or shoot me an email, and I can get you that video so you guys can, if you are interested in really deep diving on the list. What I want to talk to you guys is about relationships and the consistency of your business. That's the important stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, we can all go to the same spots for list of properties. There's no value there. So let's talk about the relationship stuff, the driver. Being a great driver, relationships are key. And I would say that if you're an introvert and you see that, oh my goodness, relationships, this is not good. I don't like talking to people. Understand that this is a people business, but it doesn't mean that you're going to not have success. It just means that you're going to need to know that relationships are important and then solve for that, right? So if you need to bring in partners or if you need to bring in VAs to help you with this, do that. And then also, I have some relationship hacks that even if you're not good at talking to people, maybe you're not a people person, these work not just in direct to seller, right? These would work on your spouse if used properly. So keep that in mind. These are ways that we kind of hack our relationship with the sellers so that they like us and they don't like you guys, right? Or, I mean, didn't mean to call you guys out like that, but so that they like us over all the other people calling them in their market. And this is what we do. So first and foremost, when you're talking to these people, I think a lot of people make the mistake of you finally get someone on the call and you're just like, what's the unit mix? What's the price? Like, what do you just keep asking them stuff about their property over and over? And what that does is that shows them that you are a transactional person. All you care about is their property. You don't care about anything else about them. But the funny thing is that if you ask about them personally, you get 2 very important stuff out of it. And I say ask about the family because that's kind of them. Ask about them and their family. One is next time you talk to them, they will remember you because you talked about something, not just the property. And a million people call them about their properties, and that's not different from everybody else. You ask them how their kids' ballet practice went, or the hockey practice, whatever it may be. You ask them that, and then you reference that next time you talk to them. So they remember you, because if you call someone 100 times and they remember you never, then you just called them 100 times. You didn't build a relationship. And so that's the one thing. And then number 2 is the transactional side, is they're going to trust you more, and they're probably going to give you information about why they're selling. So you're now uncovering some of their motivations that then are utilized when you're negotiating, right? So now they're giving you information about the property, maybe, family stuff, health stuff, money issues, who knows? And that could help you out. So don't forget to actually care about these people and treat them as such. Dress like the seller. I got a couple of these. It's just like at the end of the day, people like to talk and socialize with people that represent them. I don't think I'm saying anything that's not too far fetched here. Whether I believe it or not doesn't really matter. It's just kind of, this is what happens, right? So sometimes you get a blue collar owner that you're going to meet, and if you were to show up from work where maybe you have your button down and slacks on, this actually happened to us, they might not trust you. And if they don't trust you, then the deal's not going to happen. We actually had a situation where this guy was super old school. I mentioned this at the conference. And if we were to, we almost lost this. This was the guy that we got $60,000 wholesale fee on. So we almost lost out on $60,000 because we didn't dress we overdressed. Are you kidding me? We freaking actually wore something nice, and all he wanted to see were jeans, work boots, and a ball cap. And that's was trust for him, right? That's who he wanted to deal with. So we ended up, working it out, but it was not fun, right? We could have just avoided that by just simply what we were wearing. So that's a big point. Remember that, guys. Holidays to reach out. I actually have my QR code up on here. A lot of times I will, if you guys are following me on social media, I will warn you that a holiday is coming up and you need to reach out to your seller leads, because this is very similar to point number one. You are showing depth to your relationship. You are not just talking about their property and buying their property. You're saying, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great time with the family. And this is showing them that you care about them relationship-wise beyond just the property. And when you reach out to them, right, follow me and I'll tell you when, reach out to them and do not talk about the property. Just say happy, Merry Christmas, right? Whatever it may be. And you can use literally every single holiday, guys. Like you can use Labor Day, you can use Memorial Day, you can use July 4th, Father's Day if you know they're a dad, or Mother's Day if you know they're, mother. But at the end of the day, something cool that sometimes happens is, one, you might be the only person contacting them on that day, which is talk about relationship building. That's massive. They're going to remember that. And also, the holidays are kind of a stressful time. So a lot of times right before those holidays, you start to get ghosted by these sellers. Well, just by wishing them that, they like, you can reinvigorate dead leads by just reaching out to them, and then they say something back, and then you respond, and maybe a week later you're having a conversation about buying it again. Use holidays. I'll breeze through the rest here. I don't want to talk too much on this. It's kind of a sensitive subject, but understand that if you have a heavy accent or a foreign sounding name when you're doing cold calling or reach outs, whether I don't believe in this, but it seems like there are issues sometimes with the sellers. So if you want to just partner up with somebody or maybe get a VA, this could help supplement that, right? So just be cognizant of that when you're reaching out to people. Reference local landmarks. I don't think this is like as obvious as it gets for you guys. So I won't. Gifts at closing is a good one. And then last but not least, if you just got to get a hold of them somehow and add value somehow, because then they feel obligated to add value back, and then that adding value back could be selling you their property, right? And I mentioned earlier the seller motivations. My way of kind of teaching this is mosquitoes, right? So you could be sleeping and there could be a tiny little mosquito in your room, and you will get out of bed and you will do everything to destroy that mosquito so that you can fall asleep. This tiny little insect, right, can cause massive action, massive discomfort. So I like that thought, because at the end of the day, the reason we're asking people about their families and stuff is we want to uncover some of these potential motivations in their life, and we want to solve them. So the four main ones, sticking on the insect theme: money, outliers, time, health, right? Moth, right? If you want to think about like that. Money, self-explanatory, right? Personal issues or property performance issues. Outlier is more of a lot of times when you have like institutional investors, they might have a bunch of massive properties, and this could be the small one in their portfolio, right? The outlier in their portfolio. So that's why they'd want to sell. It's just a pain point for them when they're managing 200 plus unit ones, and this one's a 30 unit, right? Time is more of like a retirement thing. So think of, they want more time with family and friends. So they're tired. That's usually like the tired landlord falls under the time. And then health, not just in in wanting to sell their business or their property. Health dictates a lot of stuff in life. Most people, money and health are kind of the big ones of why they do anything. So keep that in mind when you're talking to those people, right? You want to uncover as many as possible. So let's take the last little bit here to talk about the system that's necessary for success in direct to seller. And if you take away anything about the system, it's consistency, right? I mentioned that in the beginning, consistent off-market deal flow, because you'll see what we'll go into later is why some people aren't very consistent. And before we get there, most important component, if you got to invest in a CRM, which stands for, I'm going to botch this, customer relationship manager or management or something along those lines. It's this fancy way of saying it's a sales tool, right? There's probably the one that we're using now, there's 800 million users globally that use this CRM, right? So it's a big deal. And that's just one of the many platforms that provide a CRM. But the main components when referring to what we're doing here in real estate that you need with your CRM is you need a lead funnel, right? You put new leads in, and then you have a bunch of statuses, and then you get hot leads, and then you get, underwriting leads, and you have offers submitted, right? And then eventually it turns into, right? That's your funnel. You need to be able to track communications. This is ideally in the same spot, right? A lot of people do their direct to seller marketing, and they'll have their text message system over here, the calling system over here. Maybe they do some direct mail. Maybe they do some email marketing, and they might have like one central spot for like tracking the leads. But then every communication, they have to like manually be updating different areas, and it's a huge inefficiency. So it's one thing to just have the CRM. It's another thing to invest in one that actually tracks everything in one spot. So you click on 123 Main Street, and you see every single time you talk to that person and all the notes that you've left, right? That's huge. Save the notes, right? Your CRM needs to be a spot for that. This is great too, and it kind of ties into automations, is the follow-up date. Because at the end of the day, everybody's lives are going to get crazy, right? Some of you have kids, some of you have spouses, and what happens is if you don't have set follow-up dates and you don't have a time set up to be following up with leads, you start to forget, and then those leads start to slip through the cracks. And what's happened to me a million times when I first got started is I would almost be like half asleep and then be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to call Ed, right? And it'd been like 6 months, and then I'll call him and he'll say, hey man, glad we're talking. Really enjoyed our relationship when we talked 6 months ago, but I've already sold the property. I sold it 2 months ago, right? And for me, that happened enough where I got kicked in the nuts, not being able to buy these properties, that I decided to start automating workflows that help me with follow-up dates, right? Remove the human out of the system. Lastly, other resources, you guys don't, this doesn't matter as much, but scripts are very important in this business. Lead capture form, right? All the questions you need to be asking every owner so you can start submitting offers, and then start building out your website, start building out your credibility, right? You need something to send to these potential sellers so that they can go, oh, this guy's a legitimate buyer, serious buyer. So I want to talk to you guys about the scaling of your business. So this is when I first got started. This is how my model looked, my business looked. It was a one-man show. I have you have your lead funnel and you have your deal funnel. What would happen is I put new leads into the funnel, and then I'd start marketing to these leads. And then I'd get super lucky, and one of them would say, hey, I'm interested in seeing an offer. And then I'd start negotiating that offer with them. And then, hey, we got really lucky, and this one's now under contract to buy. And I start going through due diligence and everything in the deal funnel. What happens is I have now forgotten all of my leads over here, and I'm not communicating with them anymore. So I'm starting to drop the ball with my consistency. And this thing just happens back and forth where you're almost just bouncing to different aspects of the business, and you lose the consistency. This is kind of the growing pains of scaling the business. How it looks now is much better, right? Much more consistent. We've actually taken the lead funnel and we've added partners, and we've divided it up. So I have a VA that is constantly 40 hours a week, nonstop marketing to just prospecting, right? And then if it's a hot lead, so somebody that wants to see an offer to buy their property, that's when our boots on the ground and our lead managers for whatever market it's in take over. So this allows us to constantly be marketing to sellers nonstop, regardless if I'm over here closing deals or not. And so at one point in 2022, we actually had 4 deals under contract at the same time, and we were still marketing to more properties to buy, right? That's the goal, right? But before that, if I had one under contract, I was a mess, right? And so as a result of structuring it like this, we had to bring in, we kind of had to start implementing the system, start expanding the system, start using better technology. And so originally Google Sheets, I think everybody knows what this is. This is okay, right? If you want to run it like a business, do not be using Google Sheets. You want to start investing into a CRM and then something that's integrated with that CRM. And this is what we did. So we started, for the last 2 years, we've been using Podio CRM with smartphone integration for calling and texting, right? And they talk very well together. All the communications are tracked in one spot. All the notes are tracked in one spot. We can add as many users to the business as we want. So I have one Podio license, and as we've scaled, we started adding more and more users, which is great because now we had a VA, and you can see on a few slides from now, you can see how big our team has actually expanded to, right? But as the engineer in me, there were still some inefficiencies in my business. So I have now scaled even further, one more step. And now I am using a legitimate top sales CRM. This is when I said this CRM is used by 80 million people, 80 million users globally. It's one of the nation's top one globally, top. And then some of the big companies like Facebook, Delta, Apple are using this CRM. The reason I did that is because I wanted access to the over 1,800 apps and integrations so that I can scale not only my direct to seller business, as I can also scale all other aspects of doing real estate investing. And so we can now do, more functionality on direct to seller, but we can also do investor and broker relations. We can send out campaigns, newsletters, all that within simple integrations with this CRM. And then we can also do, renovation management, asset management, all within the same platform. And that's just, scratching the surface, right? There's a DocuSign equivalent in there. I mean, there's just a million different integrations that I won't get into, but it's great because we can now build a full business, right? You can get a lead and you can turn that lead into a deal and then a future contact, whatever it may be. You do broker relations as well. So we have done, because of this, we have been able to scale. And now we have over 10 people in our business. We have multiple markets. And this is great because it means that I've been able to take the high level approach where I can just focus on making sure we're getting new leads in there, and then making sure once a good lead spits out that we're getting it under contract and we're going to buy it, or going to wholesale it, depending on how we view the exit strategy for that property. And the cool thing too is I touched on it a little bit last weekend, is we've actually launched businesses for other people, right? We've done it for over 17 different people, or different partnerships, really. So 30 plus people, but it's great because we were doing something that worked. And then in February of this year, we realized that we can actually replicate this for other people who are struggling to get their direct to seller business off the ground. So that's what we did. I won't do too salesy stuff here, but you can kind of see what's included is like the CRM, the all the templates and resources you need. And then we do the monthly calls, which I'm going to that after this call here, to make sure that everybody's staying accountable, right? We want to make sure that not only are you getting all your resources, but hey, every month I'm going to ask you, did you do something since last month? And if you didn't, then I'm coming down on you, making sure. But if you want to check it out, no stress, DTS.com. I'm not here to sell you guys anything. If you guys need help, let me know. We can schedule a demo, or if you want to just chat about DTS, I can help you with your business, right? So that is what we got here. I hope I added a ton of value for you guys. Any questions? If you guys want to go on out rabbit hole on any of these deals, I am more than happy to. I have about 10 minutes, it looks like. So we did pretty well there. Just enough time for Q&A.
Hi, Justin. I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, Carlos?
Yeah, you mentioned that you had a full-time VA. have people started this with part-time VA?
Excellent question. So we are in the process. There's a gentleman named Alex Tam. Some of you guys know who that is. He runs a full service VA agency. And what we're going to start doing now is a lot of people aren't ready, especially early on in their business, to go ahead and invest in 40 hours a week VA. That's like, it's a very expensive endeavor. So what we'll do is we're setting it up where it's a pay as you need partnership, right? So if you needed a VA for 10 hours a week or maybe 15 hours a week to just consistently making sure your lead funnel is active, then that's how we would be able to help, right? You'd pay as you need just for those 15 hours. And then, the other, hours of the week, they would be working with other clients as well. So that way it keeps the cost down for those new that are just scaling. And then eventually, hey, you might actually hire a full-time, and Alex can help out with that as well. Anything else?
Presentation, Justin. My question is about how soon you made the switch from Google Sheets to a CRM as you were scaling up your business. Would you say people that are starting fresh should go straight for a CRM, or should they start with Google Sheets and then progress into a CRM?
I missed out on a lot of money, Chris, up front by not making the switch early. But the issue for me, and maybe some people, maybe they're new right now and they're experiencing this, is that there is a technology gap that you have to overcome to start understanding and utilizing it. So what happened was Google Sheets worked because I could wrap my head around it, but I knew it was super inefficient and I knew I needed something better. And then I spent months out creating something better and then perfecting it over the last 2 years, right? And so that's why actually enough people came back to me asking for our system to just build it for them, is because they don't want to go through that technology gap. They just want something that works so they could start talking to owners, right? And it helped that I had the engineering background, I'll be honest, Chris. So I was able to integrate and understand, right? I used to do coding and all kinds of stuff with my background. But that's not fair to the average investor who wants to not just rely on brokers for deals. They want to start sourcing their own off-market deals. So that's why we've tried to help bridge the gap a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice job, Justin. I just had a question regarding your lists and where you source them from. I know getting leads is probably the hardest when finding off-market deals and contacts. Are you using like a prop stream or something similar to that to get your lists?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, actually. So what we can do is, I don't have enough time to dive too deep in this. But what I can do is I have a recording of me doing like a whole, this is how you list source. So let me add my info to the chat. If you just want to shoot me a message, I'll make sure I get you that recording. But I actually might have a slide that I can pull up too real quick while we have a few minutes, and you can just see some of the stuff that I've, it doesn't look like those links might have worked, but you can kind of see those links. I do have a slide here that might help of just like, hey, this is what we've used, right? So let me pull this up for you. All right, can you guys just confirm you can see the screen here?
Yep, we got it.
All right, cool. So you can kind of see those links. I do have a slide here that might help of just like, hey, this is what we've used, right? So let me pull this up for you. All right, can you guys just confirm you can see the screen here?
Yep, we got it.
All right, cool. So I do multifamily investing. I'm assuming most people in this call, or if not all, are doing multifamily investing. Now, if you're going for smaller stuff, this is we've had success with Reonomy. I haven't personally used PropStream. I know you mentioned that, Brian. I haven't personally used it, but the reason I have it up here is because I know people who have and have had success, right? So I know it works because I know those people are using it. ListSource is one of those. I'm sure everybody knows who Pace Morby is. He recommends that to all his students, I believe, is to use ListSource to pull lists. Now, going after the smaller stuff, there's more of it out there, and there's actually more databases, more softwares for finding it. we like when I first got started brokering deals, and what I did a little bit too is I'd go to the MLS expired listings and I'd go try to buy those properties as well, right? 6 months expired to 18 months expired. And then I'd go look at Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for rent ads as well, and that worked. But these are usually the smaller stuff. Once you start going larger, CoStar is definitely the best source, consistent source. You can just go there if you have access. I know it's expensive. That's the downside. It's very expensive to get access. If you have access, you can go pull a list pretty easily and filter it pretty easily. And it will provide you at least with the addresses and then sometimes a pretty good contact info for the owner or broker or something like that, or property manager. So that's good. You can check out Direct Skip. That's what I've been using of late. Everything. So we have 5,000 leads in our system right now, Brian. So at some point, some of those leads are they're just kind of stuck in this no man's land where they just haven't answered us. Doesn't matter how many times we've reached out to them, they just haven't answered us. So instead of just leaving them in there or just repeatedly calling them with no success, we pulled those out. We've ran them through. Those were CoStar originally. We pulled them out and then we ran them through a different skip tracing software like Direct Skip, and then we'll put them back in. We'll see if we get a better success, get more hits on those, right? And the last one is Freedom of Information Act. I won't go into that. I go over it a little bit in that call, but that's a way to get some diamonds in the rough if you go straight to the county. Yep.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Anyone else? I got a whole minute. I got 1 whole minute. Come on now. If you guys are interested in the system, nostressdts.com. Even if you want to if your question pops to you in like 15 minutes from now, I am always happy to get on calls and talk about DTS. A lot of times I get on calls and do not recommend my system to people for one reason or another. It's just, I'll build it for you. That's not my main job. My main job is finding deals and being an investor. I just like to help people out. So if it's going to help you, I'll let you know. If it's not going to help you, I'll just answer your questions about your business and help you out that way. So reach out. My contact information should be there.
Awesome. Justin, thank you so much, man.
Mm.
Man, you always get me so pumped up for this stuff. So I know you got to run. I appreciate it. Guys, if you have any last minute questions, I guess ask now or forever hold your peace, or send him a forever, you can send him a DM or an email or just jump in and buy his program. It's pretty epic.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
See you later, man.
Take care. See a lot of familiar faces. Take care, guys.
All right, everybody else, we're going to stay on.